For years, Tony Soprano has been on your TV. Now he might be on your computer. Find out what we're talking about. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Holiday Inn West on the Waterway in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on last week's Computer Security Conference, which was held here at the Holiday Inn West, and we're visiting with one of its invited speakers, Jon Kibler of Charleston. Good morning, Jon. Thanks so much for coming in this morning. I didn't highlight your position as the Chief Technical Officer for Advanced Systems Engineering Technology down there in Charleston.
Yes.
Very exciting. What was last week's conference like?
This was primarily an academic conference, so there was a lot of theoretical stuff, but there was a lot of good practical work. Joe Stewart had a very good paper on the research that SecureWorks, which is now based here in Myrtle Beach, is doing, and they're doing a lot of the most exciting work in the industry right now in terms of R&D. A lot of discussion of what should be in security curricula, and very good conference.
So it was very practical for a lot of the locals that traveled, came over the waterway or came down from Conway. A lot of youngsters were in. I saw a lot of college students out at the conference. There was some practical information for even them.
Yes, I mean, they get a feel for what's going on in the real world that they don't get in the classroom.
That's great. That's great. A little bit about yourself, Jon. Are you originally from the Palmetto State?
No, I've been in Charleston about 20 years. I came to Charleston on a Defense Department contract for Grumman Data Systems.
Okay.
And have been here ever since.
That's great. So you've been in the Low Country for 2 decades.
Yes.
What's it like living down there?
About like what I'm accustomed to. I mean, I've, except for about a year and a half, lived in the South all my life, so. Charleston's a great city, a lot of things to do culturally. There's no way to be bored and live in Charleston.
Yes. Is it a pretty wired city? Is there a lot going on in the computer world down in the Low Country?
There's a lot going on. The biggest issue that we have in Charleston is like we see in a lot of places here in the state, that a lot of people simply are slow to adopt the technology, and particularly when it comes to security. They don't think security is an issue, even after they've been compromised time and time again. I've got some colleagues that do computer service type work, and they are always telling stories that, well, you know, I go to this company or that company, spend a half a day there, charge them a fortune to go in and clean up all the viruses and spyware and everything that they have on their computers. Yet for what they would charge for a couple of visits, they could have software in place that would block a lot of this, but the companies don't want to spend the money. So we see a lot of that. There are a few companies here in South Carolina that are doing outstanding work when it comes to security and kind of.
Really? What are some of those?
Would rather not say because.
Oh, okay, sure. That's fine. But
they don't want people to know what
that they're doing a good job.
That they're doing a good job because. You disclose that type of information, and it only makes you a target.
Right. Oh, very good point. And that's a very important thing to think about, being laid out as a target.
Yes.
If you're doing your job right.
Yes. I mean, that's going to pose a challenge to somebody. Oh, okay, they think they're doing a good job. Let me
show them.
Let me show them exactly.
And that is oftentimes, I guess, what a lot of hackers or a lot of folks that are trying to get spyware or Trojans on your.
That used to be the case, where a lot of the hacking was for bragging rights. But in the last, particularly 2 to 3 years, say starting about 2004 and all, organized crime found that they can make a lot of money very safely, and often do it from countries where it isn't even against the law to do what they're doing. And it has just created a nightmare for security. In fact, it's gotten to the point that we used to have viruses and worms and all. We had antivirus software, and we later had spyware and all that was created, to track people's movements online.
Right.
And, then we had, various other ways of compromising computers. And a lot of that was developed, primarily for bragging rights or some of it for commercial purposes. But in the last few years, it has turned out to be that organized crime is now sponsoring the development of much of this software to the point that we're calling it crimeware.
Crimeware. When you're talking about organized crime, you mean...
I'm literally talking organized crime, the Russian mob, East European gangs, traditional organized crime.
Right.
And we're even seeing some street gangs, particularly on the West Coast, to get involved where they're doing smash and grabs of computers, say in doctors' offices or insurance companies where they know they're going to be able to find identity information on the computers that they can later sell.
They'll smash into an office and grab a computer where they know it'll have some critical information.
Yes, and just
wow.
Yeah, I mean it's down to the street gangs. Everybody has found that computer crime pays. I hate to say that, but I mean that's really what it boils down to.
It's terrible.
Yeah, let's to put it in perspective.
Yeah, please.
For 2005, the FBI has estimated that organized crime stole $67.5 billion or thereabouts from U.S. companies and individuals. And if you compare that to the big, Fortune 500 companies, that is on par with the gross revenues from U.S. operations of some of the largest companies in the world. And if you look at the profitability of it, they are much more profitable than any legitimate business. If organized crime was quote a business and it was one group, they would be probably the most profitable business in the world strictly from their computer crime activities.
What? Strictly from computer crime? So
Yeah.
they don't need to spend as much focus on drugs or prostitution or otherwise. They can really get it done, as you say, from countries where it may not even be illegal.
Yes, and then you even have countries where the people perpetrating the crimes, have tie-ins with the government, so the governments, don't have incentives to, actively go after the people. And you also have countries where a lot of it's occurring that the law enforcement doesn't have the technological resources to go after the people, or there isn't laws on the books that allow them to prosecute the people.
That is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you hear stories of FBI agents going over to some of the East European countries to pursue some of the high-profile people in these crime gang members, and they tell about having to go out and buy printer paper so that they can print out evidence because the local law enforcement doesn't have the budget to buy paper for their printers.
You are kidding, Joe.
No.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
That impact for our own folks to be able to go over and try to fight this in other countries, something that's having a dramatic impact on American business and I'm sure even American law enforcement.
Yes, I mean, if you look at the FBI behind terrorism and counterintelligence, computer crime, and the related credit card fraud, identity theft, and other fallouts from high technology crime is the number 3 priority of FBI investigations.
That is tragic, John. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it has really, really become a nightmare. And spam, which initially started off as people's ways to mass market products, organized crime has found that it's an easy way of propagating all their crimeware. You still have people that will click on email attachments and do things like that. In fact, it's gotten sophisticated enough that some of the crimeware, you don't even have to click on the email attachment. If you're using, for example, Microsoft Outlook or Outlook Express, simply moving your cursor over the email to delete it is enough to infect your computer in some cases.
No. Well, how do you get it off then, John?
That's a real issue. Law enforcement, I don't care what agency you go to, they'll all tell you pretty much the same, that if you look at the computers that they seize in various raids, particularly if you have a computer that's clearly been compromised, that 1/3 of the computers they seize, there is not any software available anywhere that will detect some of the crimeware that's been installed on the computers.
There is not any software anywhere that could detect some of the crimeware that's been installed on these computers.
And the problem is that so many of the computers around the world have been compromised. If you look at the research, it can be basically proven that about 10% of all the computers worldwide at any one point in time are under the control of organized crime.
Oh, come on now, John. Whoa. You want to say that again?
Yeah, at minimum, 10% of all the computers around the world on the internet are under the control of organized crime through what they call botnets and bot armies. And in the industry, the more realistic estimate is that it's probably closer to 30%.
30% of all computers worldwide would be under the control of organized crime.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like who would want to turn their computer on, John? Seriously, I know you're laughing because it's so scary.
It has almost gotten to that point. In fact, we're seeing people that are actually stopping using their computer because the cost of keeping the computer up and running is very expensive. And you have issues such as, they compromise your computer, you don't know it. You're on a high-speed internet connection, cable TV or DSL, and they say, oh, this is a good pipe for us to use to send spam. It's a good pipe for us to set up an illicit website. I mean, just look at it from the legal aspects. If somebody has compromised your computer and is using it to distribute child pornography, what is your legal risk?
Yes, that's a very good point.
There are actual incidences of that having occurred. That's not a what if. That's the reality of the world.
Someone getting access of one of my computers and then distributing child porn, and then of course law enforcement officials coming after me because they were coming out of my computers.
Yeah, and how, particularly if you're a small company, and they've compromised your web server. Do you have the records that are necessary to prove that you did not know that all that stuff was on your system? Or let's just look at the recording industry. They compromise your computer to set up file sharing for movies or records, and you get served with lawsuit papers from the recording industry or the movie industry for digital rights management infringement. What's your liability there? How are you going to prove whether you did or did not know that this was going on?
Right. That is very. As I try to think about the impact for viewers, John, what they could do, what are some of the things they could do right now for viewers in the PD or here on the Strand or in southeastern North Carolina? What are some of the things they can do on a daily basis to try to protect themselves?
Well, you have to be vigilant. Start off with basically a clean computer, and before you ever put it on the internet, you have to properly patch it. And in fact, I will provide you a URL that you can put up on your website of a document that people can go out and get. If you don't have a computer now or you have an old computer, print it out and use it before you get a new computer, and it will tell you step by step how to take your brand new computer and be able to get all the latest patches before you ever ever put it actually live on the internet and use it for anything other than patching it.
And this is a nonprofit group that would help support.
Yeah, the SANS Institute, which is a leading security research and training organization. Their chief technical officer produced this document a year or so ago, and it's kind of the gold standard on how to get
please give that to us now, just for viewers, and of course we'll try to put it on the screen as well. Is it I think we've got it actually.
Yeah, it's
sans.org.
Yeah.
/reading. Well, anyway,
I don't remember all of it.
It's a big one there, the white papers, Windows. But if someone went to sans.org, they could probably get to it.
Look in the reading room, white papers, under Windows and under white papers, they can find it. It's called Windows XP Surviving the First Day.